On this particular groove, the bass drum and the snare drum are very similar to the last groove we played, Billie Jean. The only difference is we're playing 2/8 notes on beat 3. So you're saying to yourself, what does that mean? Here's what it means. I'm going to play it for you once. 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we break that groove down, it's bass drum, snare drum, bass drum, snare drum. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So try to practice this on your own without me for a couple minutes and then come on back. So let's try this again. Bass drum, snare drum, bass drum, snare drum. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now that we have the bass drum and the snare drum together, we can add the hi-hat. The hi-hat is just playing eighth notes. So in 4/4 time, if this is the quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4, we just subdivide eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if we put this on the hi-hat, let's try it together. 1, 2, here we go. So let's try to add the hi-hat and the bass drum together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, so feel free to stop at any time and practice this on your own, bass drum and hi-hat. So now let's add the snare drum and the hi-hat. The snare drum comes on beats 2 and 4, and the hi-hat's playing eighth notes. And we've done this before, so it should be relatively familiar to you. Here we go. 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Now let's put the bass drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat all together for this groove. Really slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's just try it a little bit faster for fun. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. One more thing you could try is to count out loud for each measure you play, and you can count the quarter note pulse. So as you play, try to count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So with the eighth notes with the hi-hat, one thing that you can try is to open the hi-hat a little bit with your foot. So your left foot doesn't press down so much, it just opens it up just a little bit. So if we open it too much, it sounds like this. You're not getting as much articulation of the eighth note. So you can practice just opening it a tiny bit. So here's closed. Now here's open just a little. So you can hear the articulation of the stick hitting the cymbal, and at the same time, it sounds a little bit dirty, which is cool. So here we go. Let's try to play this with a little bit of an open hi-hat and the groove. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 measures. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, great job. Remember, you can play this with a metronome or with the play-along track. So have a blast. Every Breath You Take by The Police. this is one possible groove that you could play along with this tune. Let me play it first and then we'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm playing eighth notes again on the hi-hat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now the bass drum and the snare drum have switched just a little bit. So we have the bass drum on beat 1, the snare drum on beat 2, then the bass drum comes back right away on the end of 2 and beat 3, and of course the snare drum's on beat 4. Most of the tunes that we play, the snare drum's on beat 2 and 4, and this is really typical of any classic rock groove. So let me play the bass drum and the snare drum together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. So we count it 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. If I play the groove on the snare drum, it sounds like this. 1, 2 and 3, play. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. So let's try just the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. So try playing the bass drum on your own now. Okay, let's put the snare drum and the bass drum together. Just remember, 2 and 4 on the snare drum and the same bass pattern I just explained. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Okay, now that you have the bass drum and the snare drum together, let's add in the hi-hat. The first thing you should try is putting the bass drum and the hi-hat together. So I'll play it one time, listen carefully, and then we'll play it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that you've heard it, let's play it together a little bit slower. 1, 2, and 3, and play. And 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, now that we have the bass drum and the hi-hat, the last thing is trusty 2 and 4. So here we go. 1, 2, play with me. Okay, now that you have the groove together, try experimenting with your right hand and where the stick falls on the hi-hat. So maybe you want to try a little bit of the bead to get some articulation, or move away from the bead of the stick towards the shank and see if you get a little thicker tone. Like the last groove, maybe you want to open the hi-hat a little bit or try to close it even more for articulation. The most important thing is to find a great sound, experiment a little bit, and have fun.